All right. Good morning. Um, Welcome to Justice Rocks, and I hope you all are having a great morning. Um, Look at the lovely quarantine here. I needed a haircut before we got into our present situation. Hmm. Okay, so today is our third installment of Justice Rocks, and we have Stand Against Racism, which is coming up on April 23rd. That's when it starts. And today we are going to try to focus our rocks on being an anti-racist. Um, so um, let's get started. Um, this is, probably the most difficult one to kind of think about. And because of that, we're going to just take a moment and just kind of breathe in and breathe out. Okay, we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Okay, all right. So we've got our craft paints and our brushes, our cups of water, um, and some scrubbed up rocks. Um, so we had talked about doing a rock hiding and geocache event, but with the extension of the governor's directive, we at the Y decided that we are going to take this as an opportunity to create something which we think is really cool. We're actually going to create a rock sculpture garden. And with that, we are asking for your help to participate and to bring painted rocks with positive messages, empowerment messages, messages that of any justice field that is near and dear to your heart, whether it be eliminating racism, environmental justice, well, the whole list. Okay, so economic justice. I know that's something um, that's very near and dear to my heart as well. Okay. All right, take a moment and think on when you think on good morning. Um, let's see. Um, think on what uh, things about racism has affected your life. I know in Montana, one of our biggest things and in the Pacific Northwest, is white supremacist and neo-Nazi groups. So that's something that is one of the things that we fight, as long as with stereotypes of Native Americans and African Americans and other groups. One of the things I would like to share with you guys as we're thinking about our rocks and is over the course of my life, I've employed lots of different things, done lots of different jobs. Um, Kind of a standard thing with artists and theater people, where we're not doing our calling. So let me find some yellow. Oh, it's right here already. Is that I've done a lot of retail. And in retail, theft is a major problem. And it was really weird because when I lived in the South, I worked, in college at like a pretzel shop or something in the mall. But here I did more floor retail, which is not my more familiar thing. But when we look at our customers and how we think about our customers, it was always seemed to be geared towards more following and over observing our Native American customers. Even though we had anybody from any demographic could be a thief at a store. And that was something that was a big wake up call for me. Being from the South, and being relatively sheltered due to the demographics of my community, that was kind of shocking to me. It's very shocking to me and made me feel very uncomfortable. And I would notice when I would interview people for jobs or co-interview, excuse me, spring. I would notice a very big disconnect when mix and look at you at the same time. Actually, let me take this computer down so you can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Well, that doesn't help a lot, but there would be a big disconnect, particularly with interviewing Native American applicants. And it actually took me a few years of reflection to kind of figure out what was going on and reading more about racism. Because, we all think that we know what racism is when, but we know a textbook definition. We don't know what it is to live it, if a good deal of us, or to be unintentionally on the giving end of racism. So this disconnect, I would have some good interviews and don't know if it was something they said or something other vibe they got. I would have really good applicants that just wouldn't come, and it came me to realize that I don't think they felt comfortable in the environment, in the workplace, which made me upset. And I would notice when I'd watch some other interviewers, that would become rather obvious that whether intentionally or unintentionally, they were so extremely biased by loss prevention, which now I have to say this, white folks, the majority of our people that stole from us. Okay? and they happen to be the most common sprinters out the door. Um, so I don't want you to get any idea that, no, just the same. In that regard, people are people. Okay, so I'm going to paint dots on this one. Designs like this are very popular, and they're very soothing to paint. Various ways you can do dots. You can actually buy tips for your acrylic paint tubes that have like a dropper top on them. In this case, I'm just going to make this larger dot in the center, and I'm going to add some other colors. So I went to the some training this past fall with Montana's racial equity, and that was a very life-changing experience for me. As somebody who thought they were not racist in any or had extreme bias any against race or other factors. It was rather eye-opening. It actually opened my eyes to some of the things that have been happening in my own life regarding with treatment based on my gender. Miss Judith from the Montana Equity Project she talked about when she does a lot of trainings with rooms of predominantly white folks. They often have somebody on the team that is presenting that is also white. So when she says something that a big point and everybody looks quizzical, the white person next to her would explain the exact same thing, maybe change a word or say in a slightly different tone, and all of a sudden, like, it's magic. It all makes sense. So that's one of the things that was very eye-opening to me, because I worked in fields that are a minority of women, and I don't know if it was the way I speak sometimes, because I can be very soft-spoken, and due to some of my own personal experiences in life, sometimes when there's a overly assertive male, I'll back off even though I'm right. Because, it's like, hey, I'm a subject matter expert. But it made me realize that I would also have like a male counterpart with me who was part of my team that I was leading, explain the same thing. And all of a sudden it was like to another man, and all of a sudden it'd be just like, ooh, oh, okay. Yeah, we can go with that plan. That's a good plan, right? That's what I got so far. Now, when you do your little dots, I'm using a round brush, okay? Okay. And then I just take my round brush straight up and down, and I just blot it a little bit, okay? Great. That was, it made it click for me just on a personal level of my own experiences, why I've been, frustrated, and why I would get upset because nobody would listen to me or understand me, or I thought it was just completely me. But it was not. It's not. And to realize that this happens on a daily basis to folks of color, was, it made me feel ill. It really did. I generally felt ill after that lesson. So one of the things that I've learned personally, and I'm not an expert, I'm very much on my journey to becoming a anti-racist, um, is that communication. Communication is the most important thing that you can do. And honestly, the most important thing you can do is listen more than you talk. Is listen more than you talk. That is my sage advice um, when dealing with anybody who is marginalized and has been through difficult situations. Don't try to speak for them. They can do it. It might take a hot minute, but you know, it's hard to explain some of the experiences they've gone through. And then we get into our own bias on that. It's like, well, they're not speaking up about it, so there must not be a problem. Well, I find that the problem there is usually our own listening skills. Um, and this is good for any sort of relationship building, but I think it's most important when we are not dealing, sorry, that's a bad word choice. When we are trying to build relationships with marginalized people. Involves a lot of, you know what, I'm just going to sit here and listen and let somebody else speak, tell their story without interrupting or interjection and saying, oh, I know that, it's like, and not trying to bring it back to yourself, but because it's not all about us. It's not, it's not. Um, uh, okay, so this is where I am at right now with my rock. Okay. I'm going to keep painting this rock, mostly because it's very soothing, and we're talking about something that is very difficult. So doing something that's very soothing and is something that can help us advance. I'm bringing out some blue. So I keep using the term anti-racist, which is, oh, I think we need to do purple first. Which is relatively new to the mainstream. And here's a little hard line for you. You're racist or you're not. You're anti-racism or you're for it. It's simple. It's harsh, but it's reality. Because it's like, oh, I'm a non-racist. That's a slippery slope there. That gets you into a situation where you could very well be denying a cultural heritage of someone. Like I don't see color, I don't see race. That's a slippery slope because then you're saying you don't see somebody and their experience, and that's very hurtful. And I don't have a pre-made pattern for this, so this is not exactly going to be quite perfect. And that's okay. You don't have to worry about perfection. Now, any of my friends that are watching may have gasped a little bit because I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to my work, my artwork. But for our series and time together, I've been working on myself and my own sense of perfectionism. Um, Even as an artist, it gets in my way. It really does. Um, it gets in my way continually because my desire for everything to be the best and the most fantastic often gets in the way of just even creating. There we go. Rocco. Thank you for the compliment, Carl. Okay. I'm going to do some bigger blue dots to bring our size back up. It's a rather large rock. If you want to learn more about racism, there's various sites and groups that you can participate in Montana. At the Y, we partner with MSU Great Falls, and we have a racial justice book club, and they meet about once a month. They're on hiatus and during quarantine, um, but they're a bunch of great folks that you can, um, read books with and talk about them and learn more about your own bias and what you can do to help others. Because when it comes down to it, that's all it's about is seeing somebody and helping somebody and um, sharing. Those are great places to start. And to put that in, you know, that little um, I would have to say for me, it's kind of like a switch to where it's like the whoa, let me examine my thoughts and my processes and make sure this is equitable. Um, and that's something that we did with our Salute to Women nomination process this year. Is the it was really broken down and to make sure that it was fair and equitable to nominators with disabilities and making sure that it was very accessible to um, people of color. Okay, we've got some bigger blue dots. Now I looked at the camera, I see some of them are just a little on the tiny side. Make them equal as you can. Each one's going to be very different. All you can do is get them as close as you can. There's some people that are just absolutely proficient with making these lovely dots. Um, Practice, or you may have a knack for it. You might find like mandala art or um, art like just beautiful dots. Um, if you're not a fantastic painter, something that could definitely be in your speed. Let me see if I can get hands. Okay. All right, we'll go to rock view for now. Oh no, I just stuck my finger in my paint. All right, I'll take a little. We're making a mess. Um, there we go. Okay, so now that we have that, let's do another round of yellow. And then we're going to go to green. Um, Now, I like to choose my colors based off of color combinations and the color wheel. So I'm putting, so you have the yellow and then orange, then red, red, then purple, then blue, blue, then yellow. Then we're going to go green for our next row. Now, something else I had to work on as a person is, even though I've become off very soft spoken, I am an extrovert. Um, and so I definitely want to share in other people's experiences. But I kind of had a habit, and I've had it my whole life, maybe partly because I was kind of a lonely kid, um, is that I immediately want to relate to everybody and all their experiences. And if I find something that is uh, relatable, I want to share in that so badly. And that's a hard one that I still struggle with as a person. Um, but I learned a lot about it just my interactions with my table mates um, at the equity conference this last fall. Is that the theme of the food was soul food, and I grew up eating a lot of these foods, but there's a big difference culturally and significantly culturally um, for the meaning of foods. And that's pretty tough for me to, no pun intended, swallow because it's like, hey, this is part of what I grew up with too. And there's a gentleman there who, so it's part of my culture. But at the same time, I didn't know the very history of soul food and didn't realize it was originated from African slaves and cultural blendings there from out. And it's and here's the thing. Um, my family wasn't exceptionally wealthy, but we were okay. Um, and so I always thought it was just poor white people food. That's straight up what I thought. It was just like, this is just poor people food. And it's really comforting. It's really delicious. It's really, soul food. Um, but that was a big kind of eye opener too for me. A good takeaway for me is like, the gentleman at the table, um, I could see and this fantastic connection that you could just, when you talk about food, it's like he was talking about family. And it was something I had to reflect on as well. My own cultural relationship with food. Um, which I don't really have a lot of anymore, since although my mother's family is predominantly English, and we do things that are very English as far as food goes. It's more unconscious, when and then realize when I watch something on a British TV show and I recognize something or a tradition I recognize, it's like, hey, we do that. There's my connection, and because my family um, always felt like a little odd. I got some roughed up edges. That on some of the yellow dots. I'm gonna clean up real quick. Um, and that my conversations and when I was listening at the conference and watching people, um, it made me realize that um, what I lacked was a cultural connection to my own family and to my own heritage, which we've been here long enough to be considered Americans. Well, let's say part of my mother's family's been here since the Revolutionary War, so uh, actually both sides. And we still managed to carry on traditions and such, which is pretty amazing. Okay. I think what I'm getting at here is that in our American traditions, um, that we don't need to take for granted the origins of the tradition. My green mix didn't come out. It was as vibrant as I wanted. So I'm just going to throw in some pre-mixed green to brighten it up. Okay. And as we recognize the origins of the traditions we celebrate, it's good to and right to pay homage to the origins of a tradition. And this morning, I was in a little bit of a rush, so I didn't do one of the things I was thinking about, and which is to thank the Blackfeet and recognize them because this is their land that we are occupying. It's important to recognize that. Okay, anybody that's joining us, welcome. And today we are focusing on talking about Stand Against Racism Week, which is coming up. And we announced one of the project that we're going to do with these rocks and others, and that we're asking for community participation. There we go. And helping with rocks is we are going to make a landscape feature featuring rocks made with positive, empowering messages, with continuing our mission with trying to eliminating racism. Got a little Yoda in there. There's, you either do it, you don't. Okay, so we've got some going on here. Now, where do we go from green? We can go back to blue. I'd like to go forward, though. Do I have any good browns that show up on Rock Brown? Okay, so we got this rock, and we started painting this when we were talking about racism and the path of becoming an anti-racist. Um, it's a path. It's a journey. It's something that's you have to work at, and it's not easy. But I have to say, it is um, as difficult and as sometimes exhausting as it is. Then I think it's worth it. I think it's truly worth it. Um, it's worth our time as a community and as individuals. All right, I'm going to go with black dots. Then I can tie it back into our YWCA orange that we started with. These are going to be smaller than the green dots. So that's where, oh, hey, just needs a little smiley face. And go all the way around with that. So if you would like to participate in our rock project, just paint some rocks at home. Um, challenge yourself to go a little bit out of your comfort zone, but also do some that are very much um, the positive messages that you would like to hear. And if there's a particular field of social justice that is extremely important to you, they're all important, but one that is like a few that are more near dear your heart, um, we will definitely do some of those. I know um, some of the rocks that were shared from our very first video were about our public lands, and that was really cool, very appropriate. Um, I feel like I'm decorating the heaviest donut. Doesn't sound good right now. A nice donut. It's a rainy Saturday. The best time to paint rocks. And our beautiful little black dots. Now, one of the ways you can get a nice clean dot is you take your brush straight up and down, a round brush, and you just blip, 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 blip. You get a dot. Sound effects are optional. Um, Now, if you're seeking actual perfection in your dotted rock, you can go ahead and chalk out or pencil out a pattern that you want to follow versus just going free form. But I'm very much an in the moment kind of person. So, all right, let's get some more on there. Now you can add dots inside your dots too if you wanted to. There's no rules to say you can't. You could add like a drop of our handy dragonfly glaze in there, which we've used a heck of a lot. So I'm not going to use it on this rock for some variety purposes. Now, I feel like our lot rock is still a little bland. So I'm going to take my small guy. I like using all the colors because it makes me think about all the different kinds of people in the world. And then when you put them together, and these rocks may be different sizes, but I mean, these rocks, well, those are different sizes, but the dots might be different sizes, but each rock, each dot's one of these is special. They're each individually made. And together, it makes the rock more beautiful. That's just my opinion. I'm going to stick to that opinion. I mean, you could use less colors if you wanted to make a rock that reflected your voice. So in our blue, I'm just going to add some, oh no, the patient person I am, touched a wet orange dot, which we could easily fix. Just try to go as straight up and down as you can. And let's get back down. Go straight up and down as you can to make your dots. Now, is there a place that this gets to be too much? Probably. Am I getting close to it? Very likely. Very likely. Not too much, Gene. Oh, that's too much. Just talked about that. Not that got to be a little much. All right, I'm gonna cover that little red dot up there. Just take a little of my orange paint and use it like an eraser. kind of overload my brush a little bit and use it to get rid of it. Now I have, now this rock will look much more exciting once it gets a little sealer on it. But there we go. Oh, I can't leave it alone, so I'm going to put it up the side so I don't just keep adding a million things to it. All right. Thank you for the compliment on the rock. So I'm going to do another one really quick. I think I'll take our green, our nice sprightly green, because green's one of my favorite colors. Plus, since we haven't really had spring yet, I would like to see a little bit of green. Don't know if I did this earlier, but I'm going to say thank you to my good friend Carl, who let me dig through his yard for the rocks I'm painting on today. I'm coming for your boulders for the rock garden. All right, I just got like a little green base. That should dry pretty quick. It's pretty dry in here. It's pretty dry. And I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine, and I'm going to make a heart tulip because, you know, those were my favorite when I was a little one. And one of the things we talked about earlier is listening. So I really want to just put on here, listen with your heart. Oh, for the rest of April, wear teal or blue on Mondays for child abuse. That's one of the things that's going on with April. And then we have our giving. We have Give Great Falls coming up, which we're participating in, and we are raising money to overhaul the plumbing and the Mercy Home. It's an older home, so it needs some love and attention because we can house up to 24. And so you think about that's women and children. So when you think about that, that's a lot of wear and tear on our pipes and plumbing in general, the washing machines and whatnot. So that's what we are seeking aid with for giving Give Great Falls, which starts on April 25th and goes through May 1st. And you can donate through our site, our website, and then you can also find us on the Giving Great Falls. There's a lot of great other local charities that are participating as well. And there's also a lot of great local restaurants that will be doing fundraising for Give Great Falls that week. So when you order your pickup or delivery, be sure to mention in the order it's for Give Great Falls. And that will help a lot of us. Now, if you can't do a lot, think about this. If everybody did a little bit, that still gets us places. That definitely gets us a lot of places. And if you know anybody who wants to match things for the YWC, whatever we raise, we will give us a call. The lines are open at the office now, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like normal. The office is still closed until the governor's directive is listed. Of course, the Mercy Home is still operational as well. Okay, so I got this green rock. I didn't plan out a sky or anything because, you know, I'm just going to take my Sharpie and draw a tulip-like leaves. It doesn't bother me that I have a black stem because I have so much green on here. Okay, so I just drew this on with Sharpie. I could mix a lighter green to go in there's leaves, which why don't I do that? I just take a little white and mix it in with this vibrant green we have. Do quite a bit. We can just do a highlight on it actually. We just kiss a little green in there. Boom. I wasn't super happy with that line on the broader leaf anyway, so that helps. Just a little tiny kiss of green. Now, if you don't consider yourself much of a painter, what I did with this one is, if you've ever filled a cookie or did any cookie decorating, you're great to paint rocks and other things. So it's, let me point this down. I just filled it in. I mean, I've got a good bit of paint on my brush, and you just can blot it in there because it's such a small area. We don't have to worry about losing control. We got our cute little tulip. I'm just going to take my Sharpie and write in my letters because I want to be able to finish this with you today because we're about out of time. So, oh, forgot to dot my I's. I crossed my T's though. Okay, and I think I'll put another heart tulip on there on the other side. Okay, so we're gonna fill our little hearts. I'm gonna grab a nice round bit of paint on here. I'm just gonna dab that in there. Okay, and when I dab, I kind of drag just a little bit, kind of to flood my little heart. Oh, dyslexia. Which way do I move? Okay, there we go. And then do it with our other one. And now I'll have to make a little more green white, more tint of green, because I made such a little amount, it already dried up in this room, which makes sense considering how quickly our rock dried. All right, and I'm just gonna take that and okay. Listen with your heart. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Great Falls Rocks. You'll be able to rewatch or watch with your friends or share. It's also going to be on our brand new YouTube channel, which is YWCA Great Falls. Right now, all we have up there is Great Falls Rocks. But hey, it's brand new. So we're going to be building that. And yeah, thank you for coming and trying to think of something clever. Well, treat others the way you would like to be treated. And see you next time on Great Falls.